Good morning. Welcome back to Conversations at the Corner. Today is Wednesday, July the 8th, and this is episode 77. Pastor Nathan, are you ready for the question of the day?
I never really am, but you're going to give it to me, and
but here we go. Yeah. Here we go. As I told you last week, this is the just a few days past our country's 250th anniversary, and so all of our questions this month are kind of focused on that. So here is the question of the day: what person from American history would you like to have lunch with? This person could be dead or alive.
Oh, boy.
A lot of great possibilities there.
There are a lot of great possibilities. Boy.
If you would rather go on a walk with them or something, you could, it's just kind of hang out with them. Yeah.
It's not that. I'm more thinking about whether the person is historically significant or different things like that. I think the person that would... I'm going to give an answer right now, and I'm going to probably think about it later and be like, I should have chosen that person or whatever.
Okay.
But initially, the person I think I would be most interested in talking to or picking his brain or kind of understanding is J. Robert Oppenheimer. Okay. People who are listening may not know who he is, but there was a movie about him a few years ago.
Is that the one that was called Oppenheimer?
It was called. Okay. Yes, very creative title there. He was one of the main architects of the Manhattan Project and the invention of the atomic bomb. And he was brilliant scientifically, but he also wrestled a lot with his own creation, like whether it was actually good for that creation to exist. And then so after successfully making it and having the American government use it, he spent kind of the latter half of his life kind of fighting it. And I thought that was I've read a biography on him, a good solid 700-page biography.
Oh, wow.
So I know a lot about him, but I think it would just be interesting to pick the brain of a person who had made something and dedicated a good portion of his life to it and then felt like he had to fight against that very thing. I think it's a very fascinating place to be in. Yeah. So he's historically significant, but he's interesting to me at the moral level as well.
Yeah.
What about you? Who would you pick? I'm gonna think of this and be like, anyway.
That's all right. You can come back to it in another week and correct it or change it if you want. But there are so many really that I would love to sit down and chat with, but I think that I would go with President Reagan. Okay. I think that he probably is the greatest modern day president of our lifetime. He was president when I was born. So I think I would go him.
Okay.
I also think a little bit about President George W. Bush. He was the first president I voted for. Okay. And first time I got to vote, first president I voted for. And then, he's president during 9/11. And so I would love to know just how that changed his presidency. Like, hey, what were you planning to focus on? And then how did that shift? And so that would be kind of like plan B. But I think I'd go Reagan, I think, first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but we are in this series of questions here in July. Last week, we talked about murder and how many murders in the Bible and different forms of murder and all that. So today, we're going to jump back into your questions. You, those of you who are listeners, submitted these questions. So, Pastor Nathan, why don't you, I think we're going to wrap a couple of questions maybe into one today. So why don't you take us into that?
Yeah, we've actually got two questions we're going to try and do today. The first and kind of maybe the more theologically significant one is this. Now, the person who submitted it didn't want their name to be out there, so that's fine. So this is a question. Basically, it's this. Does God judge sins differently based on the situation in which that sin was committed, or does he judge kind of all sins the exact same? So that's the question.
Okay.
Let me kind of throw that out to you. What are some initial thoughts that you might have on that question?
Well, my initial thoughts are, I don't know because I'm not God.
Well,
I know that's kind of a cop-out, but that's truly, I'm not sure. I know his word says that all sins are the same, as far as that they all break his covenant, his law.
Right.
and they all have to be punished. I know his word talks about that some sins are an abomination.
Okay.
We can talk about those. And I believe that there's probably a level of accountability based on what the person knows and believes to be right.
Okay.
I think that God is going to judge me differently than somebody from Ethiopia who has never heard of him. Now, God is just, so he's going to do what's right.
Right.
But the knowledge that I have of him is different than maybe what somebody from another part of the world who hasn't heard about Jesus or has grown up differently. So I think that God's perfect knowledge, his providence, his wisdom, and his fairness plays into all of that. I just don't know on what levels and how.
Yeah. So I think that the first thing you said is important, because the idea that we're not God and we don't know, and a lot of these questions that people are going to ask are exactly these types of theological questions where we don't have like a 100% clear biblical answer where God says, this is my system and metric for how precisely I judge every sin. You know, this is a category 1 and this is a category 2. And then, you know, like, so we don't have that kind of precision in the Bible, and that can make it difficult to answer. And the last thing you said is important to me too. So here's how I always, the comparison that I make. So I have kids, and anybody who has raised kids knows this. Your kid might do something, whatever that might be, and they don't realize the first time that they do it that it's wrong. Maybe they just saw somebody else do it.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh, okay, I'll do that thing. And then mom and dad say, oh, no, you can't do that thing.
Right.
This is wrong. Here's why, whatever. And so now that child has the knowledge, and they can be held accountable for the knowledge. Before they have that knowledge, it's hard to hold them accountable. Like you have to realize that. So like I could envision, for instance, maybe a young person who has just come to Jesus and they don't know a lot about the Bible or theology or Christian ethics or whatever. And maybe they think that having sex outside of marriage is fine. Well,
it's normal. It's
normal.
It's
That's what I do. Yeah. And I don't know that Christians believe otherwise.
Right.
So if they're having sex outside of marriage, at least up to the point where somebody sits them down and says, hey, no, this is wrong and here's why, we can at least understand why they're doing what they're doing, right? It might not be right, it might not be good, but we would judge that a little less harshly because they didn't know. Okay, now that they know, now they have some responsibility for what they're going to do, and they're going to need to live in line with that. So I think those are two things that are important.
Yeah.
My working assumption is kind of similar to yours. Like, I don't have perfect knowledge of you and your motivations and how much you know and how much you're aware of. I don't have any of that. God does, though. So God's knowledge being perfect should, I believe it can, look at a person's actions and know, yep, this is what this person is aware of. This is where this person is at. And in that perfect knowledge, God can make a right and perfect judgment.
Yeah.
I may not be able to. All I could see is the person's action. I can't see their state of mind. I can't see their knowledge level. I can't see all of these other things that could go into it. And so for me to know how to judge, that's part of why we should not judge harshly. It's part of why for us as human beings, I don't have the ability to make a judgment on you or Richard or anybody else. My knowledge isn't perfect. So I think that's a part of it. You know, sometimes, like in this question was, you know, in different situations. Yeah, maybe, like depending on the situation, depending on the person and what they know, and all those things.
Yeah. I think we just kind of fall back to, we don't fully know because we're not God, but God can do no wrong. So whatever God does is going to be right and fair and just.
Yeah.
Loving and holy at the same time.
Yeah, and then there's two other things I think we should probably hit on with this one. And one is that when we talk about God's judgment, we could talk about this in a couple of different ways. One would be like a final judgment. Okay, like how does God judge my actions and my life and all of that type of stuff? And another way could be in the moment. If I do whatever sin, does God judge me in that moment or punish me in that moment or anything like that? And that's a question that's hard to answer because it seems like a lot of people get away with a lot of sins and they never get corrected and they never get any type of comeuppance or anything like that.
Yeah.
But what I do think is really important is that sins always have a sort of a natural consequence. Even if we can't always see them. To me, the most obvious way is, for instance, like, and this is what we've told our kids, if they lie to us, we might give them some type of punishment. But what we've continually told them is, you have to understand that if you lie to me, the natural consequence of that will be that I don't trust you anymore. If you do it, maybe if you lie once, okay, we move on. But like if you do that repeatedly, it's not going to be possible for me to trust you because I'm going to continually wonder, oh, are you telling the truth?
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that
Yep.
because I've got this experience where you've lied a lot. So most sins, most wrongdoing has some type of natural consequence that's built into it.
Yeah. And just because you're forgiven doesn't mean that God takes those consequences away.
Right.
You used the illustration earlier about somebody sleeping with somebody that you're not married to.
Right.
You do that, and we know what the possible consequences of that is.
Right.
An STD, a pregnancy. If you develop an STD and get pregnant, well, God's going to forgive you for the sin that you committed, but He's not going to take your child away, and He's probably not going to take your STD away.
You'd have to handle that.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, you'd have to handle that. But that is a natural consequence of your choice, of your sin.
Yeah.
And so He has forgiven you. That is redeemed. It's under the blood. It's all of that. You're going to heaven. You're living in right relationship with Jesus. However, you still have the burden of the consequences to carry.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's important to remember. So when we think about God's judgment, my presumption is that when God judges us at the resurrection, that God, I guess I don't really know, but I don't think God's going to be sitting there with like a tally of you did X sins, and then these are the ones that you asked me for forgiveness for, and then I get on the winning side of the ledger or the losing side of the ledger. I don't think it's going to be like that, but I do think that when God judges us, He knows us perfectly, and so He can rightly judge us better than I can. Even with my kids, like they will tell me something or they will do something. I don't have perfect knowledge of what they're doing. I can do the best that I can as a parent. I can work with what I know. I can give a consequence based on what I know. But my knowledge just is not perfect.
Yeah.
Even as I make a judgment on them and take responsibility in that role as a parent, it's not perfect. So I think we can have confidence that God's knowledge and wisdom is perfect.
Yeah.
Now, the other question that I think that we should talk about that is, I don't know if it relates, but I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important. So there are sins that we do that are actions, right? And then there are sins that we might have that are attitudes or internal things that's going on. We can see this really well in the Sermon on the Mount. So in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus has this section where he says, you have heard it said, blah, 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 blah. He says, but I say, blah, 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 right? And in each one of those instances, he's taking something like murder or adultery, and then he gets to the heart of it. So yes, obviously murder is wrong,
right?
But the heart of it is that you have a hatred for your brother, and that like you're taking things into your own hands, or different things like that. That's the heart of it. So he's saying you have to watch out for that. Or adultery is the same thing. Obviously, adultery is wrong, but the heart of adultery is looking after someone in lust, right? So there is an internal thought, and that internal thought may not ever become an actual action. It might just sit there as an internal thought. And so that's something too to think about, is a lot of times we think about sin as an action, and of course that's right, we should, because it is action. But we also need to be aware that sin is something that happens inside of us. There are attitudes that we develop, or even just things that even thinking, like how we think about other people or how we relate to other people internally, that can be a really important thing to consider. And again, I think the same logic applies. God would judge based on what we know and who we are and all that type of stuff.
It's the attitude that drives the action.
Yep. Yeah.
And so it's lust that drives the adultery.
Yep.
It's hatred that drives the murder.
Yep.
It's greed that drives the theft.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think you're right. Yeah. Jesus is saying these actions are wrong, but so are the attitudes that lead to the actions. Yep. Yep.
All right, let's shift gears. This will be a really big gear shift, everybody. I don't know that you're preparing for this, but we have a second question this week that we want to bring up. And this question comes from my younger son, Graham.
All right, Graham.
Okay, Graham. So, and I know your motivation for asking this question. This question is, are video games really that addictive?
Yes, Graham, they are. Listen to your parents.
Or they can be, yeah. So, Graham, I know your motivation. Your motivation is that you guys get to play video games sometimes. You know, we give you time to play them, and we tell you, well, you don't want to play them too much because they can be addictive. This is what I will say, or Mommy might say that too, Graham. But you're questioning me when I say that. Like, oh, is that really just something you're saying?
So he's asking, he wants some justification that he can play?
He wants to prove me wrong. So here's the thing, Graham, okay? Listen to me. Yes, they can be. And like a lot of other things that are addictive in life, they are always automatically addictive, but they can become addictive. So looking at Facebook, I know some people listening in on this conversation probably have a little bit of a Facebook addiction, scrolling and rolling all the time.
Scrolling and rolling.
Yeah. So, but that doesn't mean that everybody who looks at Facebook is automatically addicted.
Right.
You can have an account and you can use it moderately or whatever. So a lot of things that we get addicted to, you don't have to, but they can.
Yeah.
I do think that video games are something that so I think they can be addictive, and I think there's two really big reasons why. But before I jump into that, I want to ask you about this. Now, I don't think you play video games at all, really, do you?
No, I don't. No.
Brady does, though.
He does. Yep. And I did when I was younger.
When you were younger.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I wasn't a big game player.
Never. Okay.
Yeah. And once I got out of college, I was pretty much done.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit right after college, but not much.
Okay. So your experience with it, so even in high school or college, you weren't playing them.
I had the original Nintendo. I got a PlayStation, like a hand-me-down PlayStation from a friend after like PlayStation 2 came out.
Okay.
You know, so and I played it with friends and or at their house or whatever.
Okay.
So
was it a little bit more social then for you? Not something you were doing by yourself a lot?
I think when I was probably like Graham and Wallace's age, probably not even Brady's age, but more like Graham Wallace's age, I had the original Nintendo, but I only had like 3 games. So I wasn't, on it all the time.
So once you
Super Mario Brothers, of course you had Duck Hunt with that. And then I had like a baseball game, and that might have been it.
Oh, okay. So you can play
Mike Tyson's
through
Punch Out. I had Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but you can play through those, and then what else am I going to do?
Yeah. And then in high school, I played Madden football.
Yeah.
On PlayStation, and that was really about it.
That was about it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So you don't have a lot of personal experience.
Not a lot. A little bit. Not a lot. Brady's a game player. He likes to play.
He likes it. Yep.
And so we're kind of navigating that on your side of it, and I'm navigating it from a place of not, I understand how you feel because I was a big game player too.
Right.
So it's a little bit different.
Yeah, so I have a little bit more experience with it, and I do still play them some now. So I'm going to go back to a couple of reasons why I think it's or the biggest reason, in my opinion, that they can get addictive.
Okay.
Video games a lot of times will put somebody into what psychologists call a flow state.
Uh-huh.
So the flow state is kind of where you're doing something and the passage of time almost disappears. Like you are so invested and locked into that thing that you aren't really aware of the universe around you. So athletes might get into this when they're inside of a game. Like they're just so locked into it, they can't even really think about anything else. And people get this way with books. You could read a novel and you could get into a flow state, or a movie, or maybe this never happened to me. Maybe somebody who's really into gardening could get into a flow state and planting their plants and watering.
I would say that we could get into this flow state preaching a sermon. Like we're focused. That's more of a public setting.
It is,
but so is the athlete on the field. Like you've got fans around you, but you're focused on the game. We're focused on delivering the sermon.
Yep.
And like somebody will say, "Hey, did you hear that baby crying, or did you hear or see that?" Sometimes I do, and sometimes like, "Oh no, I didn't hear that or see that at all."
Yeah, and that's a good example where for me, I don't know how much you do. I don't really. I've been in situations where I've had a clock available to me where I can see how long I've been taking, but here I don't have that, so I just preach it, and then when I'm done, I'm done.
Well, just so you know, on that screen at the back of the sanctuary, there is a clock in the corner.
Oh, yeah, you know what? That's right, there is. I guess I just don't look at it.
I don't either.
So never mind, there is a clock.
Yeah. And the people who go to church here know I don't look at it.
Yeah. Okay. But anyway, yeah, you're right. I think in a sermon you can get that way.
Yeah.
There's lots of different things that you can do to get into that state.
Is that state of flow, is that kind of the same thing where they talking about you're in an alternative universe kind of, and like you come back to reality and it's like a hard transition back? Is that the same thing? Or?
Yeah, I think it can be.
Okay.
So I'm actually going to bring this up a little bit here. I was talking with somebody at the church about this. I won't mention who, because they have a kid who played video games some, and what they noticed is that when that kid would play video games for a long time, they would kind of almost have like a bad attitude for a while afterward.
Yeah.
And I think some of that could be related to the idea that I've been locked into this other world.
Yeah.
And now I got to deal with real life right now.
Yeah.
And I don't like real life because it's not as fun or interesting or whatever.
Yeah.
That could be a part of it, is that you end up having this bad attitude. But I think that flow state is really important because that's what gets you hooked.
Yeah.
It's not that. So I'll give you an example. I can get really locked into a flow state with video games, especially certain ones. Not all of them kind of lock me into that, but I've had some where some of you won't even know what I'm talking about. But when I played Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, right, we were living in Bolivia at the time, and I got a Switch, and I would play it sometimes after Olivia had gone to bed. And there were more than a few times where I was like, I'll play this for like a half an hour. And then like 3 hours later,
it's 2 o'clock in the morning.
I'm going to pay for this.
Got to work the next day.
Yeah. Right, yeah, I got to work the next day. So that did happen a few times. Now, anyway, so that can happen to me.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't happen to me as much when I'm reading. With reading, it's much more of a disciplined thing where I sit down and I say, I'm going to read a chapter of this book. And once I'm done with the chapter, I'm good. I don't always get like locked in and feel like I can't move. But video games do present that a lot. And so I think you do have to be aware whenever you're involved in something that will just kind of suck up time and you become
suck you in.
Yeah, suck you in.
Yep.
And so like Facebook is the same thing. I know I have had this happen where it's like I'm scrolling through Facebook and then wait a second, like I've been doing this way too long. Like so that can happen to any of us. So that's probably really the biggest thing that I would say is it presents that flow state.
So let me say this. So your kid submitted this question.
Yeah.
And let me just throw my kid under the bus here.
Okay.
Brady does like to play games, and he's got a couple of different ones, and it's kind of like, well, can I get this game? No, you can't get this game. Here's why. Well, yes, you can get this. So, we have to go through that. And I have to explain why certain games are allowed, certain games aren't. But quite some time, I don't know, within the past probably year, Samantha and I noticed that when he would get in this flow state, we'll call it, as you've described it, that when he would come out of that, like he was difficult, like he had a bad attitude and all this kind of stuff. And so we told him, you can't play, and we kind of changed some things about when he could play or how long or that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it wasn't long after that, he had this realization and he admitted, he's like, you know what? You're right. When I'm not playing video games, and my attitude is way better. And we're like, gotcha. And so it was cool that like we said it, but he came to the realization that, I am in a better place when I'm not on that game. So the other parent that talked to Pastor Nathan, you hang in there and you stand firm, and then maybe your kid will come to the place where they agree with you. So you keep fighting the battle.
Well, in fact, that person actually, their kid is kind of at that place.
Oh, good.
They understand that their attitude can be affected by it. I think one thing that can happen too is that I know for our kids, it's really hard. Like when we say to them, hey, it's time to end,
Oh yeah.
It's like because you're locked into it, you don't want it to end.
Well, let me finish this stage or this scene or this fight or whatever.
That happens a lot, yeah. So I will tell a couple of stories. Well, I'll tell two really quick stories with me. When I was in high school, my mom, you're listening, you could correct me if I'm not remembering this right, but I think it was about a year after I'd become a Christian, so I would have been in 11th grade or so. I had a Super Nintendo. I had a lot of games I really liked to play. And I came to this realization, I think, that I was just spending too much time on it, and it was kind of like distracting me from God. So I got rid of my Super Nintendo. Like I was like, okay, I'm just going to get rid of this. And then I wasn't playing video games for a while. And then here's what happened in college. Okay. There were two games that this happened with. One is less dramatic than the other, but I'll tell you. So the first one was NHL 95.
Okay.
Which is a great game if you've never played it before. At Bethany, so this is a school up in Canada, so they all love their hockey.
Oh yeah.
Somebody had a copy of that game in their room and everything, and we had basically like a tournament and then a belt. Okay, like
awesome.
I would have you would challenge the belt holder, and then so I earned the belt. And then I defended it like I had to retire. I was done. I was like, guys, nobody can beat me. This is over.
Did you play with the Red Wings?
I used them and then a couple of other teams too. But I think it was like 17 or 20 times in a row or something like that. And I was like, guys, I have to quit. This is done because I'm better than everybody else and whatever. Right? But that one was kind of fun. But then the same thing repeated again when I went to Moody. And here's what happened at Moody. We had Ken Griffey Jr. baseball.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a really good baseball game, actually. So, but this time I didn't have a Super Nintendo, but I had the TV.
Okay.
And somebody else had the Super Nintendo and the game. And so we actually left it in my room.
Ooh, nice.
And the same thing happened. I was so good at it that no one could beat me. It was again, the same exact scenario. And so what I did was I eventually, and this was kind of bad, but I just, in this moment of impulse, I was like, I would practice. So it was the thing, because it was in my room. I'd be like, I'm just going to play a game and practice. I would just like suck up time, quote unquote, practicing. And so eventually I got so frustrated with myself that I took the game and I threw it down the trash chute. It wasn't my game though. So but this moment of impulse was like, I have to cast this out right now. I have to get rid of it. I can't remember the kid. I don't remember who owned it. They were not happy with me, but
I'm sure they weren't.
No, but I was like, I'm sorry, I couldn't. I had to get rid of it.
Oh, man.
But now what that kind of did was both of those instances have kind of taken me to this place where I do play them a little bit now, but it's really on and off. Okay. It's like last year, Mario Kart World came out. So I played that quite a bit.
Okay.
I don't think I played a video game at all for the past 6 months.
Okay.
But when something new comes out, I might play through it, and then I will put it down again, and I won't play it for a long time. But that's a hard state, I think. I think that's a hard state to achieve. I think most people who play video games, they play them a lot.
Yeah.
It's hard to kind of go on and off like that.
When I was in college, a group of us, we played Madden football.
Yep.
And I don't know that I had been beaten until I got to college.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then I never won. But I always play with the Lions too. Like play with my heart.
That's a mistake.
Yeah,
that's a mistake.
Especially back then.
Yeah.
But I remember one time, my brother-in-law, I don't even know if he and my sister were married. They might have been. They were either engaged or getting ready to get married. And he came up to our house in Michigan, and he brought his PlayStation, and he was talking all this stuff and wanting to play. And he had Madden and he had NCAA football. So we played Madden, and I was whipping him. And he's like, "Well, that's just because you play Madden." And he said, "Let's play college." And I said, "Okay." So we played college, and I picked Michigan. And just to be annoying, you know who he picked?
Oh boy,
yeah, he picked Ohio State. And he's like, "Now we're going to play my game." And I was beating the pants off him, like 36-3 or something
really?
like that.
But they're basically the same game structure, right?
Yeah. Well, and then so I just looked at him in like the third quarter and I'm like, do you want to quit? And he didn't say a word. He just shook his head. So we turned it off. But it was it was great.
That's funny.
He thought he was going to whip me and he was talking trash and I didn't say a word.
Yes, I think to wrap this topic up, what I would say is, of course, yes, video games can be addictive. It is hard to have discipline with them because they're fun. I mean, and you can get locked into that world, and they are fun. And what I would say, too, is for anybody else listening to this, maybe you're not a video game person.
Yep.
I would say the thing to watch out for is what is something that you can get so wrapped up into that time disappears or the universe disappears. That's not bad to have happen some, but you have to watch out.
Can't live there.
Yeah, you can't live in that place all the time.
Flow state.
Yep, flow state.
Good. Well, thank you for our anonymous question, and then thank you
to
Graham for the follow-up. We appreciate that. Pastor Nathan, why don't you pray for our people today?
All right. Heavenly Father, we come to you today, and we recognize, just thinking about this last topic, we recognize that it can be easy for us to get addicted and distracted to all sorts of different things in this world. And so my prayer today for everybody listening is that you would help us to be aware of the things that grab a hold of us and distract us. For some people, that might be video games, but for other people, it could be other things. And so it's up to us to kind of be aware and to respond to that. So I pray that your Holy Spirit would convict us and open our eyes and give us the courage to repent or to discipline ourselves with those things. And we really want to be able to have hearts and minds and lives that are focused on you. So we ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Nathan. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget the Power Rally is this coming Sunday night at Parkway Wesleyan, 6:30. Join us next Wednesday morning at 7, same time, same channel. Keep rolling, Emmanuel.